Good morning. Welcome to Meditation with Regina. Um, I feel like attempting to record some self-inquiry meditations just to help people along that are learning self-inquiry. And it felt like the best way to do it was just to have you join me in meditation. So these recordings can be very authentic. You've got me in my PJs. My hair is, not yet fixed. I'm just in my environment, the environment that I'm in today. Today it happens to be the condo in La Vida. I haven't done anything to prepare for this. Except, I've had my coffee. It's all gone. I'm awake. That's what I always do before I meditate. uh, this is just authentic. This is just real. Nothing fancy. No special recording equipment. Nothing. I mean, really, just is what it is. But when it feels right, when I feel like I have that space to do a recording, I will. If I'm at home, it's possible that someone will walk in the room while we're doing it because that's the way life is in my life, and that will be real, and we'll do that too. So today we're going to start with a very simple self-inquiry meditation. If you happen to have my self-inquiry guide, this is a 30-minute meditation from that Living Inquiry Guide. And I'll post a link to the guide in the description underneath the video when I post the video. But we're going to start simply by settling into stillness. And for this, you can keep your eyes open. You can close your eyes. I usually start with my eyes open, but not always. Just do whatever feels right for you. The main point here is the intention. The intention is that we're entering into a time of inquiry. I'm not used to talking during a meditation, so um, I'll do my best. But all I'm doing right now is noticing my environment. My dog is sleeping beside me. I can hear her breathing. My stomach is starting to growl a little. I can hear and feel that. I notice the ringing in the ears. I notice different sensations in the body, for me, like around the jaws. That's kind of standing out right now. I don't really want to talk too much during this settling in period because I want you to settle in your way. If you feel like you need help, if settling in isn't easy for you, you could do what a lot of people do, focus on the breath. It's something I've actually never done, but a lot of people will close their eyes and focus on the inhale. Notice how long you hold it. Focus on the exhale. Notice what it feels like to be empty of the air. Inhale. Notice what it feels like for the chest or the belly to be full of the air. Exhale. Notice what it feels like to be empty. Notice how long you like the emptiness when it feels like the inhale wants to happen again. And I'm going to quit talking because it's not natural for me to talk during the settling in period. But whatever works for you, let's settle in. During the settling in period, you're being aware of something, or maybe even a variety of things like sounds and sensations. But the key to the settling in period is that you're placing your attention with something that will hold your attention, but it's something other than that. Again, the key to the settling in period is that you are placing your attention with something that will hold your attention, but it's something other than that. This doesn't mean that there aren't thoughts. It just means that something else is in the foreground of awareness right now. For me right now, the bodily sensations are really becoming strong, just naturally shining in the foreground of awareness. So in this moment, it takes for me no effort to pay attention to those sensations that are dancing in the body. Secondly, I hear my dog snoring. So what's happening that's natural for you? Let meditation be as natural as possible. What's natural for you to give attention to? Something that you're settling into. In this case, settling into equals settling away from being lost in thought. Now, this is a self-inquiry meditation. So you'll need to notice when you feel settled enough. And when that time comes, the first question we're going to ask is, what is aware? So, for example, my bodily sensations are incredibly alive for me right now. So I'm simply going to keep my attention with those bodily sensations. I'm going to ask, what is aware of these bodily sensations? Also, I hear a loud vehicle passing by. I can ask, what is aware of that sound? But after I ask what is aware, I'm just going to continue in the settling in. But this time shifting attention slightly, gently, naturally from the sensation to the spaciousness or the openness or even the curiosity that follows the question, what is aware? Openness feels like a good word to say right now. I'm not going to try and answer the question. I'm just going to focus on the openness that follows the question mark in the question. So, what is aware? And then just be in that openness. It's okay. In fact, it's wonderful to still notice the sensations, or still notice the breathing, or still notice the sounds in the environment, or all of it. But there's a lightness, an openness, rather than a focused, heavy concentration. What is aware? If your mind starts to drift into thought, you start to notice that's where your attention is going. Just ask yourself the question again. What is aware? And step back into the openness. We're not trying to answer the question. We're just being open. The realization comes great. If not, fine. We're just being open. There's not a period or a conclusion at the end of that openness. The question mark creates the opening, and we stay in that opening. What is aware? Now we're going to shift into a core inquiry question. The question that we're asking today is, can the I be found? You could also try, what is the I? They're really the same question. You could do this with eyes open. I typically like to do this inquiry with eyes closed. The practice that follows the question is the same as the practice that followed what is aware. We aren't really seeking an answer or a conclusion. We're just resting in the question mark, resting in the openness. But what you might discover is that the mind might settle in on something. It might try and find a conclusion. And when it does, you want to inquire again. So whenever a conclusion appears to appear, you inquire again. I'll attempt to demonstrate as it happens for me naturally. So let's just do this. Can the I be found? Or what is the I? What is I? Resting in the openness. Not seeking a conclusion. Merely watching what naturally occurs. Not trying to do anything. Nothing contrived. Nothing forced. Just hanging out in the question. What is I? Can the I be found? Don't worry about what you think you're supposed to find or not find. Just observe what happens in the openness of the question. For example, let's say the mind begins to settle in on for some people, it's a feeling in the head, maybe in the forehead or behind the eyes, but a feeling in the head. Might say, I'm this, I'm right here. If that happens, then you could ask, what's aware of this? Or even, am I aware of this? And you might start to see that what it's settled in on as I is actually small and contained. And you might notice yourself as broad by comparison. And so you'll see that I can't be this because this is small and contained. And I am broad by comparison. And when you notice that, you can then again ask, well, then what am I? And go back to the openness of the question. Can the I be found? I've seen that this conclusion is incorrect. So can the I be found? And then I do nothing. I be. And if the mind starts to settle in on another conclusion, I question that. I question any conclusion. But I don't seek conclusions. I be in the openness of the question. You could say my role is simply to abide, but the mind will seek conclusions. And when it lands on one, my role becomes to question that conclusion. What am I? Can the I be found? Sometimes what will happen is that the attention will drift back to thought, back to the chatter. It could be chatter that's distracting away from the meditation, or it could be even chatter about the meditation. But if you notice, there's a inherent subtlety to the chatter that says, this is me, this thinker, this thinking. This is the I. The conclusion is I found the I in the thinking. So when that happens, Just look at the thinking. Thinking is kind of like a narrow tunnel. Notice there's still a broadness around that narrow tunnel. The broadness that's aware of the bodily sensations and the dog breathing. You could ask a question like, am I merely the thinking? Or is the thinking just happening in what I am? And when you genuinely see that it's impossible for you to be merely the thinking is occurring, we're not denying that, but there's no way you could be merely the thinking. And that feels absolutely true to you. Then we're back to the question. If I am not merely the thinking, then what am I? Can the I be found? We've eliminated the feeling in the head as what I am. We've eliminated the tunnel of thinking, the narrowness of thinking as what I am. So I'm back to my question, back to my openness. What am I? Can I be found? And stay in that openness. Abide in the unknowingness. Abide in the question. The mind could even attempt to put forth a logical conclusion in thought. The logical conclusion in thought is, I am this person sitting in this chair. You could simply ask, is that true? Or is that an assumption? You could even ask, is it possible that's merely an assumption? And just go back into the openness, back into the question mark. Is it possible that that's merely an assumption? What am I? Can I find an answer? And even though we've asked, can I find an answer? Our focus isn't on finding an answer. Our focus is on remaining open in the question. What am I? Can an I be found? Again, whatever the mind lands on, question it in whatever way is natural to question it. We are not here to seek conclusions. We're here to learn to abide in the openness of the question, to stay in the non-conclusion. What am I? Can an I be found? We're going to shift into the third phase of the meditation, which is resting without a question, resting in the openness, just being in the openness. If there's any goal in this phase of the meditation, the goal is to apply no effort to anything, no effort to having an answer to our questions, no effort to understanding anything, not even what I am, no effort to having a particular state, a mystical state, a state of awareness, nothing. We want nothing but just to be here in this openness. This is resting. No question. No seeking. Just being. We don't need anything here. We also don't need to exclude anything here. Just open. We're not trying for anything. Just resting, just being, just allowing. There's nothing we have to push away. No special experience we need to achieve. No question to ask. And that is a demonstration of what I call the 30-minute meditation in the Living Inquiry Guide, although I have no idea how long we were meditating. I never do. So thanks for joining me. Bye.